Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark, SME Banking is in focus today as we welcome to our studio Thimal Perera, DGM of Retail and SME Banking of Hatton National Bank. Then Hasta Premaratna, LMD columnist and market analyst, gives us his perspective on market sentiment. And TNS Lanka's country manager Kiran Echen wraps up the show with his analysis of the island-wide survey on racial tensions in Sri Lanka. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Hello and welcome to the Big Picture Business Program Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. The SME sector is considered to be one of the key growth drivers of the economy, contributing not only to GDP growth but also to employment generation in all spheres. So is enough actually being done to assist this vital sector to realize its full potential? With us in our studios today is Thimal Perera, Deputy General Manager of Retail and SME Banking of Hatton National Bank, and he will give us a little more insight and more perspective on the SME banking industry here in this country. So welcome, Thimal. Really good to have you in our studios today. If we just to start off, would you be able to give me a brief overview of what the local SME sector is like at this point of time?
For sure. I mean, the SME sector per se is a very, very important sector. It's the backbone of the economy. If you look at the industries, I think about 80% of industries are SMEs. It generates well over 50% of GDP to the economy. Depending on which article you look, I've seen some articles quoting 70, some articles quoting 60, and others quoting 50. So, but at the end of the day, it's a very, very large number. The other important aspect is the employment creation. It creates almost 35% of employment in the country. But yet, it has very weak linkages with international markets. There is very limited technological innovation. So I think there is still a lot more one can do to really entrench this in the economy and grow SME across all segments in the market.
So when we look at SMEs, we're also looking at micro enterprises.
That's
now, in this modern day enterprise industry, the SME banking industry and the micro enterprise banking industry, what are the imperatives that really need to be there?
One is definitely, if you look at the limitations on SME, is access to finance. That is a big limitation depending on who you speak to. So banks are also at the moment more focused on lending against security rather than looking at the cash flows of the SME. So I think that needs to change. Banks need to understand at the grassroots level the business of the SME. Now, just talking a little bit about HMB, we have field officers in our 250 branch network that work very closely with the SMEs, where they actually understand the crop cycles, the break-even analysis for the SME, and we structure our facilities also around that. Now that is something, the real understanding of the SME businesses, because of the dependencies on weather for agricultural industries and things like that, is lacking in most instances. That is why you need to work very closely with the SMEs to understand those cycles and structure facilities and repayment of those. So it's not just the underwriting, but it's also the repayment of those facilities that need to be structured into the facility when coming up with those proposals to SMEs. Real efficiencies and productivity gains that SMEs can derive by using more innovative technologies, by training SMEs on the more mundane management skills like business planning, product development, distribution. Those are the areas that SMEs can really benefit from if there are structured programs to take them through those and walk them through those. So that is something that HNB has been working on, and we have been very successful. Our portfolio, if you analyze it, more than 40% is SME. And we are one of the more prominent larger organizations in the country that supports SMEs and finance SMEs.
Thimal, just to get back to a point you brought up earlier about banks actually concentrating more on the physical collateral
Right.
when it comes to any funding for that matter, and not really looking out of the box for other innovative ways of helping SMEs.
Right.
Do you think, given the challenges that the SME sector faces in obtaining funding, are there any other avenues that they can actually work with or get funding from? If I'm not mistaken, there's a new concept called crowdfunding that has come in,
Right.
abroad, of course, not
Right.
here. But things like that, do you think SMEs will start looking elsewhere beyond that of the bank to get their funding sources?
I think the financing is largely restricted or is within the financial industry space. So be it a bank, be it rural banks and credit societies and so on and so forth. So I think the access to SMEs, even if they want to look outside banking, they probably have very limited avenues to find the sources of funding. Now, even the foreign aid agencies, the IFCs, the European economic banks fund these projects through banks. Now, there are some banks in the industry that have got access to this low-cost funding, and the direct beneficiaries of those are the SMEs. So, having said that, there is the microfinance element and the financial institutions like the prime Gramins, which are focusing at the lower end of the SME segment, what we call the microfinancing segment. Now, at the end of the day, microfinancing would graduate to be the SMEs of the future. So now HNB again has been in microfinancing for well over 25 years. So that is really the feeder grounds for our SME business. A lot of our SMEs are people who migrate up from that microfinancing sector. So microfinancing is one element of funding, the lower end of the SME. The other is, of course, the more traditional term loans and permanent overdrafts, and there are a lot of other new financing avenues that are opening up as well, which we can talk about a little bit later. But all put together, I think SMEs still rely very much on bank finance.
Bit of a catch-22 situation, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Now, in terms of enhancing, empowering, enriching the SME sector in the country, in your opinion, has Sri Lanka actually optimized on the full potential that SMEs can give as a key driver of the economy?
There's always more that can be done. In terms of credit guarantee schemes that would give comfort for banks to lend a more structured, what I mentioned earlier, the crop insurance schemes, we have those in place in a sporadic manner, but a more structured scheme of that nature, I think would help the SME segment. In terms of educating SME leadership on the management areas that we spoke about, making the linkages with large enterprises in their supply chains. So if for example, there are subsidies and incentives for large enterprises to link in SME businesses in their supply chain, for example. There can be a lot more that can be done in SME. Bringing that introduction, by nature, SMEs are smaller businesses. Their ability to bargain in the international markets are limited. So I think there is more work that can be done in those areas to actually bring in those economic linkages and encourage SMEs to look further afield rather than just internally within the country, focus on international markets and so on and so forth.
Now, flexibility again is the key to SME lending. What is the advice you would give others in the industry, banking industry, as to how they can add that element of flexibility when actually lending to SMEs?
I would say it's the understanding of a real understanding rather than at a superficial level of the SME business. What are, like I mentioned earlier, what are their break-even cycles? What are their crop cycles? What are their dependencies on external factors? Once you have that understanding, then you can structure facilities in a manner that works for the SME as well as the bank. At the end of the day, it's a win-win. If there are restrictions placed that are not in keeping with the business cycles of the SME, obviously the SME won't be able to meet those. And what do you have at the end of the day? A bad debt on your hands. So the more you work with the SME in understanding their businesses, if there are any specific needs that you identify at the same time on their entrepreneurial skills or their management skills that would be required, bringing those together, helping them out in those financial planning. That is one big area that we find the small enterprises lacking. Innovation, again, not because of the lack of knowledge of new innovation, but the lack of finance and funds to get into those new technologies and innovation that will bring down their production cost as well. So those are things that I think banks should look at, work with SMEs in making sure that they provide a facility to the SME that is in keeping and in line with the requirements of the SME.
We're taking a short break now. On the other side, Thimal Perera discusses SME growth, the challenges that are facing the SME sector and restricting that growth, as well as the expansion. So stay with us.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
As soon as my salary goes into my HNB account, my family goes shopping just like a power play. Now with HNB mobile banking, wherever you are in the world, you can check your account balance and do your banking with ease. Wherever I am in the world, HNB is active on my mobile and tab 24 hours a day. HNB mobile banking. Bank anywhere from any mobile.
Thank you for staying with us on Benchmark. We now return to our discussion on SME banking with the Deputy General Manager of Retail and SME Banking of Hatton National Bank, Thimal Perera. Thimal, when you look at SMEs in the agribusiness sector, manufacturing sector, industrial services sector, there's been quite a number of, or quite a bit of growth in those industries when it comes to SMEs. Now, if you're looking at the present time and if you're looking ahead, what areas do you see potential? What industries would you see potential in SME growth? And also, what are you seeing potential growth in right now?
Right. At the moment, we are seeing obviously the traditional SME industries of trade, agri, the ones you manufacturing, are the ones that we have been seeing the growth. But in recent times, the new sectors that have come into this, one is tourism, other is infrastructure, subcontractors and so on and so forth, and services. So not to say that the other traditional segments have slowed down, but these are new segments that are coming up that we've seen in the recent past. In terms of the requirements from the SMEs, in terms of financing requirements, we are seeing needs for supply chain management, we are seeing needs for distributor and retailer financing. So these are all non-traditional SME financing and more the domain of the large corporates that we are now seeing in the SME sector as well. GRN funding is another element of SME financing. Even geographically, when you look at the past few years, the Western Province obviously dominates in terms of the SME business. But in recent times, we are seeing a more broad basing of SMEs. The Northern is coming into the fray now. The North Central Province, Uva Sabaragamuwa, all contributing in greater numbers than they have been in the past. So there is a wide scale uptick in SME activity across the country is what we've seen.
What are the main challenges that are actually restricting growth and also the expansion of SMEs?
Again, I think some of this we have already covered, so it may be a little bit repetitive, but the main challenges are, I think, the lack of or the limited access to finance, which SMEs face. I think some of the managerial skills in terms of planning and product development and distribution and so on would be others. Lack of probably credit guarantee schemes in the country that would encourage and give comfort to banks to finance and lend in this segment would be another. Those probably would be the biggest challenges that I would see.
Now, development of skills, knowledge. It's not enough just having a technical workshop here and a little conference there. That will not help. Where would these budding entrepreneurs who want to make something of their business actually go to? Is there some kind of educational institution, courses that would give them that backup?
I think the biggest training or knowledge impartment happens by working hand in hand and closely with the SMEs, which is what I said HMB does very well through our field officers in this respect, where they actually work hand in glove with the SME. They practically meet the SMEs very, very frequently, understand what the challenges are. And there is a lot of also, because these field officers meet other SMEs in similar industries and
so it's
and
sort
fields.
of a sharing knowledge.
There's a lot of knowledge sharing, imparting of experiences, what to do, what not to do, and so on and so forth. So I think that plays a large role in actually bringing SMEs to that required level of skill and experience, in my opinion.
One thing we sort of touched upon at some stage in this discussion was the regulations and the administrative tasks these SMEs have to go through. Now, what measures can be actually taken to simplify all this so that the layman or a new entrepreneur coming in will not be too scared and pushed away from actually starting his own business?
True, very valid. I mean, I think SMEs by nature, given their size, they have less bargaining power in the regulatory environment. If the regulatory environment is cost prohibitive, I think it's more cost prohibitive on SMEs, again, given their size, rather than on larger enterprises. I think the regulatory environment has to be consistent, has to be transparent, has to be predictable. In order to engender economic activity and growth in these segments, I think the regulations and the administrative environment has to be user friendly. And I think there is some way to go in that. At the moment, the regulations are quite complex in that area, and that is one area that I would like to see taking place as we go forward in making a much more user friendly, much more welcoming regulatory environment for SMEs to set up business and run their businesses.
So if you were looking at the SME banking industry in Sri Lanka, what is your vision for it, Thimal?
I would like to see a lot more friendlier, more conducive to business kind of regulations. I would like to see the upskilling of entrepreneurs in their chosen fields. I would like to see credit guarantee schemes coming into place. I would like to see a little bit more structure around crop insurance and more protection schemes that are available to both the SMEs as well as financial institutions. I would like to see the adoption of more technology, innovative technology that will drive down the cost for SMEs in doing their business. Yeah, that would be it.
That's a long wish list, but I hope it comes true. It's not an impossible one, though.
It's not. It's not.
Thank you very much for being with us
You're
today,
welcome.
Thimal.
Thank you very much.
So that was Thimal Perera, the Deputy General Manager of Retail and SME Banking of Hatton National Bank, and we've been discussing SME banking here in Sri Lanka today. On the other side, we have market analyst and LMD columnist Sme Banking giving you an insight on the bourse, and Kiran HN, Country Manager TNS Sri Lanka, on the latest TNS LMD survey.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC. Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
As soon as my salary goes into my HNB account, my family goes shopping just like a power play. Now with HNB mobile banking, wherever you are in the world, you can check your account balance and do your banking with ease. Wherever I am in the world, HNB is active on my mobile and tap 24 hours a day. HNB mobile banking. Bank anywhere from any mobile.
Welcome to the show. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. We'll take a closer look at the bourse now with market analyst and LMD columnist Sme Banking. So Hasta, how is the bourse faring at this point of time?
Yeah, the positive trend that we have seen in the last few months have continued into the month of September as well. In fact, the price index, which was around, we just crossed 1,000 in mid-August, has reached up to about 7,200 levels and taken a bit of a small dip, but overall the trend has been positive. Of course, the retailers have been more active in the market they used to be a few months back. So essentially, I think the 2 to 4 months big rally that we have seen in the market has been dominated by the retailers. There is no doubt about it. But the good news is that the market participation in terms of or representation in terms of stocks, actually the blue chip stocks still continue to the market. For instance, if you first 3 to 4 months, the top 20 blue chip stocks in the market represented about 60% of the turnover, but come down to about 45 levels. It's not down as much as it used to be in 2009 to 11 period, where the hardly traded and then there were only very small penny counters which didn't have fundamental value, which were actually trading in volumes and creating a lot of activity in the market. That trend, unfortunately, has been well controlled this time. We are seeing more retail activity in small stocks now than what it used to be 3 months ago, but then I think not to the extent of what it used to be a few years back. So that's a good sign, some learning, but I think we need to keep emphasizing to the retail investor, carried away, not to get sort of over hungry to make a buck from the market. Look at the market as an investment platform rather than just trying to sort of double money like in a casino, so that you can stick to the fundamentals and keep driving your investment returns over a period of time.
Now in the past you have cautioned investors against speculating on stocks of companies that don't have the right fundamentals. Now how can you explain that such stocks that don't have the right fundamentals are still being traded on the stock market?
Yeah, I think there are 2 factors here. One is that there are certain stocks which at times are strong in fundamentals, because the fundamentals sometimes keep changing due to external environments and various other management issues, etc. in organizations. So sometimes you can say a company which is doing well today and looking good may not be as good as that in a year or two's time, or 3 years or whatever times. Over a period of time its value can sort of move up and down. So such counters sometimes will have their lean patches and then come back. So those are really cannot be referred as these poor stocks or the penny stocks which are really manipulated by the selected investors or selected parties. But I think some of the stocks which have absolutely no asset value, absolutely no profitability, absolutely no potential to turn around, I think then the authorities need to really look at those companies and ask the question, why do they really exist, and is there a reason why these companies should be running as is?
Going on from that, Hasta, is there a mechanism in place to find out which stocks are good, which stocks are bad on the part of the regulators, and so that they can get rid of those bad stocks?
Well, to my knowledge, I think the Securities and Exchange Commission and the CSE, so the Colombo Stock Exchange, both will track artificial price movements of companies and ask the company to justify or company to explain if there are any reasons for such an increase or decrease in the price. So then there will be some communication to the investors that the company says we have no understanding why the price is going up or whatever, you know. So that's one side to the story. So there is some level of surveillance, some level of investigation going on abnormal price movement. But having said that, is there a mechanism in which you can identify from a valuation perspective and classify a stock as becoming a junk stock, or becoming totally irrelevant from and distancing itself from the fundamentals? I don't think so. And that's something that maybe the authorities really can't do, but it's something that the investors themselves will have to identify and be disciplined enough not to get carried away in getting into such stocks looking for quick returns.
That was market analyst and LMD columnist Hasta Premratna. After a short commercial break, we'll take a closer look at the latest LMD TNS survey. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
As soon as my salary goes into my HNB account, my family goes shopping just like a power play. Now with HNB mobile banking, wherever you are in the world, you can check your account balance and do your banking with ease. Wherever I am in the world, HNB is active on my mobile and tab 24 hours a day. HNB mobile banking. Bank anywhere from any mobile.
Welcome back. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. We'll take a closer look now at the latest LNB TNS survey with the country manager of TNS Lanka, Kiran Echen. So Kiran, why don't you talk us through what this month's survey was about?
This month we focused our survey once again on national reconciliation, particularly in the backdrop of some of the recent ethnic and religious conflicts that we have witnessed.
So what do respondents have to say with regard to the ethno-religious violence we've seen?
Yeah, at a very basic level, we asked our respondents, do they think these ethno-religious conflicts are a thing of the past? And a majority of them, close to 62% of them, believe that yes, we seem to have put some of these tensions behind us. But the way I see it, it's only 62%. Because there's still 2 out of 5 people who believe that we still are facing some of these conflicts. And when we ask them why they think so, 2 sets of answers emerge. One set of answers is about, hey, the war has ended, but are we seeing reconciliation in its true sense of the word? The other set of answer, a significant lot of them refer to some of the recent clashes that we saw between the Sinhalese and Muslim communities. And in line with that is another very telling statistic. 60% of the people whom we met believe that extremism is on the rise these days.
Now, Kiran, does the blame lie with the government or with the people according to the poll?
It's very hard to say from the results of this survey. The default opinion of, yes, politicians are to blame does come up. So close to half of them believe that the entire politicians and government machinery is to be blamed for some of the recent conflicts. But at the same time, close to 45% of people are also telling that the citizens and the general public cannot be absolved of any accountability. They are also equally responsible for some of these conflicts and tensions. So it seems to be like the entire system has to take responsibility, including the government and the citizens, and both being equal partners in crime, so to say. But actually I would like to draw the attention to another more positive finding, where over 60% of people actually believe that the government is doing all it takes to foster peace and harmony. So this coming from the generally cynical attitude that we have seen in all our monthly surveys, I find this statistic quite heartening.
What must the government do to put an end to racial and religious violence?
Hard to say based on this survey, Anushan. There is very generic mentions of how the government machinery should treat everyone equally irrespective of their ethnic or religious backgrounds. Other than that, there is no strong points of view that I can give based on this survey.
That was the country manager of TNS Lanka, Kiran Echen. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.